Mark never stayed late unless he had no choice. Every extra minute inside the glass and steel building felt borrowed from his real life, the small apartment where his 6-year-old son, Leo, waited with a backpack still on and questions ready. That night, the office had emptied faster than usual, the hum of computers fading into a hollow quiet. Mark shut down his screen, stretched his tired shoulders, and checked his phone. A message from the babysitter. Leo asked if you're coming before he sleeps. Guilt pinched his chest as he grabbed his jacket. That was when he heard the sound, heels scraping, then a sharp breath, followed by a laugh that didn't quite land. He turned toward the elevator lobby and froze. Claire Whitmore stood there, leaning against the wall like it was the only thing keeping her upright. The CEO. His boss. The woman everyone described as fearless, ruthless, and impossible to read. Her hair was slightly undone, her perfect posture cracked just enough to be human. In her hand, her car keys jingled uncontrollably. Mark's first instinct was to look away. This wasn't his business. People like Claire lived in a different world, one with drivers, lawyers, and safety nets. He was just a mid-level analyst, a single dad trying to keep the lights on and his kids smiling. But then she took a step forward and stumbled. Not dramatically, just enough to send a jolt of fear through him. A security guard glanced over, frowned, then returned to his phone. Claire laughed again, frustrated this time. Long night, she muttered to no one in particular. She pressed the elevator button twice, impatient, as if the building itself were disrespecting her. Mark's mind raced. If she drove like this and something happened, he'd never forgive himself. He thought of Leo. Of holding his small hand while crossing the street. Of teaching him to stop, to look, to care. His feet moved before his courage caught up. "Ms. Whitmore," he said quietly. She turned, eyes sharp but unfocused. "Yes?" "You shouldn't drive right now," he said, voice steady despite the storm in his chest. Silence hung between them. For a split second, he expected anger, humiliation, a reminder of his place. Instead, her shoulders sagged. "I'm fine," she said, but the words were weak. Mark gently reached out. "Let me call you a ride." She stared at him, then at the keys in her hand. Her fingers loosened, and they fell into his palm. The weight of them felt heavier than metal. The elevator doors opened, but Mark ignored them and stepped aside, pulling out his phone. She protested half-heartedly, then went quiet as the car arrived. During the ride, the city lights blurred past the windows. Claire leaned her head back, eyes closed. "You didn't have to do this," she murmured. "I know," Mark said. He didn't explain. Some things didn't need explaining. When the car stopped, he watched her walk safely inside. Only then did the adrenaline drain from his body. As he headed home, he wondered if he'd just risked everything, or done the one thing he'd hoped someone would do for him. The next morning, Mark barely slept. Every possible outcome played in his head on a loop. Maybe she wouldn't remember. Maybe she would remember everything and resent him for it. Maybe HR would call him in before lunch. He kissed Leo goodbye, forcing a smile, and promised himself he wouldn't check his email every 5 minutes. He arrived early, as usual, hoping to disappear into routine. Coffee, spreadsheets, quiet productivity. But when the office doors opened and Claire walked in, the air shifted. She looked exactly like herself, tailored suit, controlled pace, eyes alert and commanding. No trace of the woman from the night before. Mark's stomach dropped. She doesn't remember, he thought, and strangely, that scared him more. Then she stopped at his desk. "Mark," she said. He stood immediately. "Yes, Ms. Whitmore." She studied him for a moment, really studied him, as if placing him in a mental file she hadn't noticed before. "Come to my office," she said calmly. The walk felt endless. He braced himself for a warning, a boundary, a professional distance snapping back into place. When the door closed behind them, she didn't sit right away. Instead, she exhaled slowly. "I remember last night," she said. Mark's heart pounded. "I'm sorry if—" "Don't," she interrupted. She finally met his eyes, and for the first time, he saw something raw there. "You kept me from making a very bad decision." She thanked him. Not casually. Not out of obligation. She told him how alone she'd felt in that moment, how rare it was for anyone to step in without wanting something in return. Mark didn't know what to say. He wasn't a hero. He was just a dad who couldn't look away. "I won't forget this," she said quietly. As he left her office, his hands were shaking, not with fear, but with the strange realization that honesty had shifted something neither of them could undo. The change didn't come with fireworks. It came in small, undeniable ways. Claire started asking Mark's opinion in meetings. She remembered details, projects he'd mentioned, ideas he'd once shared and assumed were ignored. One afternoon, she noticed him packing up early. "You have somewhere to be," she said. "My son," Mark replied. "I pick him up." Instead of the usual nod, she asked about Leo. Really asked. Age? School? Favorite food? Mark answered cautiously at first, then more freely as she listened without checking her phone. A week later, she called him in again. This time, there was no tension. She offered him flexible hours. A raise. Leadership of a project that had been quietly gathering dust despite its potential. "You've been doing the work already," she said. "It's time it matched your title." Mark walked out in disbelief. That night, as he tucked Leo into bed, his son asked why he looked so happy. Mark smiled, thinking of a single choice made without expectation. "Because sometimes," he said softly, "doing the right thing changes more than you think." And somewhere across the city, Claire Whitmore didn't pretend to forget. She chose to remember, and to be better because of it.